Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Debugging applications in Anypoint Studio can significantly enhance your development process by allowing you to identify and fix issues in your mule applications. Anypoint Studio is the integrated development environment, IDE, for developing mule applications, and it provides various debugging tools and features. This tutorial will guide you through the debugging process using the Anypoint Studio Logger. Tutorial: Debugging in Anypoint Studio with Logger. Step 1. Set up Anypoint Studio. 1. Download and install Anypoint Studio. If you haven't already, download and install Anypoint Studio from the MuleSoft website. 2. Create a new Mule project. Open Anypoint Studio. Click on File-New-Mule Project. Name your project, example debugging example. Step 2. Build a simple Mule application. For demonstration purposes, let's create a simple Mule application that takes an HTTP request, processes it, and returns a response. 1. Add an HTTP listener. Drag and drop the HTTP listener from the Mule palette onto the canvas. Configure it to listen on a specific port, example 8081. 2. Add a transform message component. Drag and drop the transform message component after the HTTP listener. In the DataWeave editor, transform the input payload. Here's a simple example that adds a greeting to the input. DW %DW 2.0 Output application/JSON var name equals payload.name dash message hello ++ name ++. 3. Add a logger component. Drag and drop the logger component after the transform message component. Configure the logger to log the transformed message. Use the expression payload. 4. Add an HTTP response. Finally, add an HTTP response component to return the response to the client. Your flow should look something like this. HTTP listener-transform message-logger-HTTP response. Step 3. Debugging your application. 1. Set breakpoints. To set a breakpoint, double-click on the line number in the flow where you want to pause the execution, example on the transform message component. 2. Run in debug mode. Click on the debug icon, a bug, in the toolbar to run your application in debug mode. 3. Send a test request. Use Postman or a similar tool to send an HTTP request to your application. For instance, send a post request to http://localhost 8081 with the following JSON body. JSON name, John. 4. Debugging session. When the execution hits the breakpoint, the debugger will pause. You will see the current state of the application. You can inspect the variables and the payload in the variables view. 5. Step through the code. You can use the following controls in the debug perspective. Step into, go into the current component to see what happens inside it. Step over, move to the next line in the current method. Resume, continue running the application until the next breakpoint. 6. Check logger output. After passing through the logger, you can check the console output to see the logged message, which should look like this. 2023-10-0112:00:00.000 info your app name -main logger, message equals hello, John. Step 4, Fixing issues. If you encounter any issues, you can adjust your DataWeave expression or configuration and rerun the application in debug mode to see the changes in effect. Conclusion: debugging in Anypoint Studio using the logger is a powerful way to gain insights into your Mule applications. By setting breakpoints, inspecting variables, and monitoring log outputs, you can efficiently track down errors and improve your application's functionality. Feel free to explore more advanced features of Anypoint Studio, such as using the debugger for complex flows, managing exceptions, and testing with munit for a more comprehensive approach to debugging and testing your mule applications.